It's Monday morning, we're in the warehouse, it's glorious outside for a change. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 I think orders we can get out today. Very much starting off this week where we left off last week. So thank you very much for clicking on this video. If you haven't watched before, my name's William, along with my fiancée Laura and my brother Andrew. We run The Attachment Company. These week-to-week videos, the whole point in them is to take you behind the scenes of our small business, show you what we're up to, show you what actually goes on a daily basis, the good, the bad and the in-between. So with that being said, let's crack on with this morning's work. We've got at least 3 or 4 orders we can get out today, so I'm going to crack on, get them ready to go. Some of them, if you watched last week's video, were half prepped last week, just waiting on some bits and pieces to get them out today. So I'm going to start on that and then I'll show you around what we are sending out this morning. We are starting the day off with the easy orders, 100 of these. 2 boxes of 50 replacement concrete teeth for a Simex wheel cutter, and the tools for removing and fitting them. I can't remember the exact model of Simex wheel saw that these concrete teeth are from, but I will put you a picture in here when we come to editing this to show you what these are going on. In fact, we might actually, if I've got a video, we'll put that in here as well, just to show you what these are going on. So that's a nice little parts order. That's something as we do more and more Simex attachments and more planers and cutters, that we will need to start keeping more stock of parts like this. They're a wearing part, they're a consumable, so it's something that we should have available. But yeah, nice little order to get started. I'm going to band this up, get a label on it and get it out of here. Second order of the day coincides nicely with the turn in the weather. A GBrake GR120. This time it's with a bracket for a customer's Hitachi ZX30, ZX26. That's the one that we get the bracket modified last week. It is a standard bracket that we keep here, but we normally keep them with 35mm pins. We had that over at the blacksmiths, at the welders, getting them to take the boss size out to 40 and make us new 40mm pins. So this is pretty much ready to go. That is the second one we've done so far. GBRakes we got in at the end of last year to give them a try for this summer coming, and obviously with the weather being as wet as it's been, there hasn't been much happening with them until now. But a 120 here with a 150 ready to go, hopefully later today, maybe tomorrow. So fingers crossed, with the upturn in the weather, we get a little bit of traction with the GBrakes. But this one is pretty much ready to go. Hoses are on it, couplers are on it. I'm going to strap it to the pallet. But while I do that and I get this one ready to go, enjoy some footage of one of these doing exactly what they were designed to do. Labels on this, and this will be the second order of the day done. Third order of the day. Let me quickly show you around it here before I'm finished. You'll have seen a bunch of these if you've watched any of our videos before, but it is an AugerTorque X2500 log splitter and auger package, 2500 drive, 200mm log splitting cone. In this instance, going with a 300mm S4 tungsten auger. There is a 225mm auger to go with this as well, and a double pin cradle hitch. I'm just waiting on the paint drying. This whole setup is for a customer's Takeuchi TB216. and it's pretty much everything ready to go. Drive, he's got his auger drive, he can split logs, and he's got the 2 different diameter augers and the locking strap for the drive unit. In fact, actually, yes, on that note, I'm going to put a video in here. That is customer order that we sent out a couple of weeks ago. That's our 250mm log splitting cone. We done the cradle, hitch and the lock strap, and that's the customer's own auger drive. So you can see that there working, splitting logs exactly the way that this package is destined to go and do it as well. Otherwise, I'm going to get the last couple remaining parts on for this order, get this packed up, get it out, and that'll be us for orders this morning. We've got a couple of things lined up for this afternoon. We need to go to HydraQuip, hopefully, if they phone in time, and we need to go to the welders and pick up a bracket for one of the 2 big planers. So yeah, let's keep going. Order number 3 for the day, done, ready to go. Let's get this out. It's just before lunchtime, so I'm going to get this out, pallet ways. I'll pick these up this afternoon. There's a couple of other ones here, some SimexPlaners I would have liked to get out today, but that is not going to be possible, and I'll show you why in a second. Well, a minute. So yeah, let's get this out, get down to HydraQuip, and I'll show you exactly what we're waiting on to get these planers out tomorrow. Guess what I've just bought? Well, these are a bit of a giveaway, but I will show you around in more detail in the morning. I also went to the welders, thanks again Grant for getting them done, picked up 2 brackets for the 2 big planers. I will also show you around them in the morning. Tuesday morning, and the weather here in central Scotland has returned to normal. Normal being wet and miserable, but regardless what goes on, business stops for no man, and we have some orders to get out this morning. Primarily a couple of SimexPlaners and another G-rake. So let's get started, get a move on with some of these, get them out this morning, and I'll show you around what we picked up yesterday. So what we picked up last night was one of these. I'm using the forklift as a table here, but that is a Neotech MKH16. Now what that will allow us to do is make up our own hose assemblies for things like the attachments we need to get out this morning, being a G-rake and some planers, and in general any of the attachments that come into us without hoses. This will now allow us to quickly, easily and cost effectively make our own to more or less any spec and any length. Comes with, they're over there, 5 sets of dies. It'll do every hose size from 1/4 inch up to 1 inch, 3/4 inch, 2 seconds and I'll tell you. 1/4, 3/8, 1/2 inch, 5/8 and 3/4 2-wire hose, which will do 99% of the requirements that we have in here. So I got a quick crash course in it yesterday when I picked it up. I'm going to make a couple up just now for the G-rake and the little SimexPlaner, and then I'll show you around. One hose end done. Going to make up the rest of them after we've packed them up. I'll show you how this machine works. before I show you around the Simex attachments this morning, we have another G-rake ready to go. This time it is the GR150. I'll put the spec here for you. 1.5 metre wide. It's got an S-type S40 bracket on it at the moment. It's also going with another bracket, a 35mm pin, so the customer can swap it between two machines. That's ready to go. We've made the hoses, couplers on it, brackets on it, ready to plug in and go to work. And I know he watches this, so I need to say massive thanks to Richard for the business on this. It is much appreciated. Now I know you're a lot further north than us, which means your weather is probably even worse, meaning this is not really the time to get one of these out and working. However, when it dries up a bit and you get it out onto some jobs, please, if you don't mind, get some videos and we'll include it in a future video, let everybody see what these can actually do. In the meantime, this is ready to go. Thank you again for your business. I'm going to wrap it up, strap it to the pallet, wrap it up, tape label, get it out, and then we'll get through some of these planers. You might have seen us supplying excavator mounted planers before on this channel, but these two models are new to us. First time supplying both of these, starting off with the smallest in the range, the PLB 200. I'll put the specs here on the screen for you, but this is suited to excavators 2 to 4 ton, 200mm wide planer, 0 to 70mm planer depth, supplied in this instance with a 40mm bracket for a customer's Volvo EC27. Mechanically adjustable depth, you can see the depth chart on the front there. I've fitted up the hoses and couplers. 2 hoses, 1 hydraulic circuit required. Pick it up, plug it in and go to work. So that's pretty cool to see that here and ready to go. That's going up to a customer on the Isle of Orkney. But enough about me talking about it. While I get it ready to go, let me show you one actually working. We're getting towards the bigger end of the excavator mounted planer range now, the PLB 450. 450mm planing width, 0 to 150mm depth, mechanical depth control, hitch bracket hoses. This is suitable for excavators 8 to 13 ton. We'll put that on the screen here for you. In this instance, it's fitted with a 50mm hitch bracket. It's going on a customer's Lugong 909 ECR. So we're really covering almost both ends of the planer range this morning. And it is 2 new ones for us, the 450 and the little 200. This is one of 2 we've got to get ready. We've obviously just made the hoses for this one. The other one should be ready to go by the end of the week. But yeah, really cool to start to see some more planers coming through. And if I get any footage of either of these out on site working, I will put it in for some future videos for you. I promise I will show you how the hose crimper works at some point in this video. I plan to do it there, but we're a little bit up against time to get this out today, but it is pretty much ready to go. It is also, bear with, going with a full set of spare teeth. That's the teeth. I would show you underneath it, but I promise you they're under there. It's going with a full set, and all of the new planers come with the toolkit. You probably can't see that. That is some spare teeth, the tools for taking them out and putting them in, and the mechanical depth adjustment tool as well. So that's ready to go. It's stickered up. I'm going to wrap it and put a label on this pallet and get it out of here. The fourth and final order of today, almost ready to go. Let me quickly show you around. It's an order that came in online this morning on moosevalley.com, which is our website, our original website. It is 2 S4 AugerTorque tungsten augers, 450mm diameter and a 300mm, both with the flat shock lock tungsten teeth. and a pilot in each box. So that's a nice little order to come through on the website this morning. We'll get them out today, be with the customer tomorrow. And that should be us for orders for Tuesday. Alright, it's 8 PM Tuesday evening. If you watched last week's video, you'll have seen me pretending to be a joiner. Managed to grab another hour and a half this evening to do just that, making up some more stands for ScotPlant. I'm about 3/4 of the way through this one. I'm going to call it go get my tea. Then I might come back out and do a little bit in the office, but I will show you, I'll have this done this week, so I'll show you my plan for it. Because it maybe doesn't make sense just now, but I promise, bear with. Thursday morning, we're in the warehouse again. Not a lot to show you from yesterday other than we got delivery of chisels. If you watched 2 episodes ago, I think it was 32, 33, at the end of that episode we had an issue with a GBRaker, the 140 TL, yep, the 140 TL on the 14-ton excavator. Broke a chisel, we replaced it for the customer, and that was us getting some more in for stock, just to be able to make sure we can service any issues in the future. So we dropped that off. That was a local customer. Laura and I dropped that off yesterday afternoon. Other than that, no orders going out yesterday, so it was fairly quiet on that front. We just got caught up in the office, get back to some customers and worked on some things for ScotPlant at the end of the month. With that being said, I'm back in the warehouse this morning. Nothing going out today, but a couple of orders to get prepped and ready to go tomorrow. I have a couple of breakers I've looked out behind me. It was to answer a customer question on the difference between the two of these. So I figured when they're out I might as well show you as well. So what I have behind me are 2 GB breaker models, the GBN10TL and the GBN10T. I'll put the spec sheet here for both of these. And what you can see there is, for the vast majority of the technical spec, they are the same breaker. The only major difference is the weight. 135 kilos for this one, the TL, 75 kilos for this one, the 10T. The difference being that technically the part that does the braking, the main body, is the same on both of these breakers. This part here that you can see on the 10T is the same as the main body that's inside this box on the 10TL. Now if we look at the spec sheet again, I know it says silenced, they're hydraulic breakers, they're by no means silent, but that is the difference between the two. The silenced version being the one in the box, the open top being the one here, the 10T, on side plates. Now why do we keep both options in stock if they are technically the same breaker? Well, weight is the exact reason why. Now both of these breakers can be used on excavators 0.8 to 2.5 tons, and if you're using them on the larger end of the scale on a 2.5 ton excavator, the weight difference is negligible. It won't make a great deal of difference in the actual use of the breaker. However, if you're using them on a small machine, in this case it was for a customer with a Yanmar SV08, this one I've assembled this morning is for a customer with a Kubota U10, then that 50-60 kilograms of weight difference between the TL and the T makes a massive difference on that size of machine. So that's why we keep both of these in stock, just to offer both options to make sure we're covered for the 1 ton, the 0.8 and the 1 ton micro diggers, and the 1.5 to 2.5 ton machines. Now the 10T that I have assembled this morning, I've put a hitch bracket on it, I've put the chisel in it, I've put hoses on it. That's part of a bigger order to go to a customer. The little breaker's going, the other SimexPlaner, the PLB450. We packed one of these the other day, but that other one that came into stock is going to him as well, along with a breaker for an 8 ton excavator. So still got a bit to do in here this morning. I'm going to put that 10TL away. I'm going to finish up getting the small breaker ready, then we'll make a start on the planer, which means we've got hoses to make and I can finally show you around the new hose machine. Right, let me set up a makeshift workbench here, and then I can show you around how our new hydraulic hose making tool works and how we'll make a set of hoses to suit that SimexPlaner. So firstly, what I was doing there was putting a pair of adapters onto the hose ports on the planer. I think I've mentioned it before on a previous video, but the hose ports on all of the Simex attachments are what's called ORFS, which means they're a flat face with an O-ring, ORFS, O-ring face seal, which is less common in the UK as opposed to a BSP. So what we do is fit an adapter, and if you already know this, skip by the next 30 seconds, but that's the ORFS face or side of the female, and then you can see the difference to the BSP with the cone in it. That means we can just make standard hoses, standard BSP hoses, and it also means if there's any issues with the attachments when they're on site, that the customer is easy to go to their local hydraulic place and just get what we would determine a standard hose made up. So for the price of 2 adapters, why, there's no reason we wouldn't do it. So hose machines here, as I said the other day, it's a Neotech NKH16. Comes with 1, that's not 2, 2, 3, 4 sets of dies, which means we can do 5 different hose sizes. So just, apologies I've not got this quite set up yet, it's makeshift, we're making it work now. We can do quarter inch, 3/8, half inch, 5/8 and 3/4 BSP hoses with the 4 dials. So what we do is we use our handy chart here. We're putting 3/4 hoses on the planer, which means we need the 30 dies. So we take the dies. Now this is the only thing on initial use of this that I'm not a major fan of. It doesn't come with a quick change set of dies. So you can see there how the dies are all separate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 dies, they're all separate and they fit into the crimper separately, which for us 95% of the hoses we make will be half inch and 3/4. It's not a massive job to change. If you were using or trying to do this commercially, then it would be a far bigger pain. It's probably not the tool for that, but for what we're doing, price point, value wise, it's absolutely fine. It uses, when it comes to parts and components, I'll show you them in a second, but it uses the exact same hose, ferrules and fittings that sort of any other make would use. The exact same. When you see us going to HydroQuip and getting complete hose assemblies, it's the exact same components, albeit they've got a nice big fancy hose swager. So fit all of the dies like that. Like so. Hopefully you can see that on camera. Fit all them. Then we need to get some fittings, some hose ends. For this job, it's as simple as it gets. It's 2 hose assemblies, which means we need 4 ends, 4 ferrules. Move these dies out the way, and 4 fittings. 2 females, 2 males. That's the male and the female. And each one of these, I'll show you what these do in a second, but each one needs a ferrule. So we've got our machine set up, we've got our hose ends, we need some hose. Now I've just bought this in a reel, which means it needs cut to length. As I say, it's a simple 2 metre hydraulic hoses that are going with this planer. So all we'll do is take our hose, measure the 2 meters and cut it with the grinder. We've got our hoses cut to length, let me move this camera around and hopefully I can show you what to do here. So take a female end, take a male end, take 2 ferrules. That's just some spray oil. Hopefully I can show you this in the camera here. The ferrule goes on the end of the hose. Make sure it's all the way seated. Then your hose end goes in. Make sure again that's all the way seated, like so. Then into the machine, handle on, hose with the end on it into the machine. Then what we want to do is set the dial. So if I move this camera, hopefully I can show you. That's the dial set on 0. Setting for a 3/4 hose. Crimp dial setting 2. Dies 30, crimp diameter 32. So we've got the 30 dies in. We need to set the dial to 2, and I'll show you what crimp diameter means in a second. So screw our dial up to 2, like that, and we are ready to go. Just work the pump until it starts to put tension on the hose fitting, like so. Change to this one. You want to keep pumping. You can see how it's starting to crimp the end onto the hose now. If I turn you around there, you should hopefully be able to see that. What we want to do is keep pumping the machine until there's a little red mark in the centre of the dial, till that comes out to flush with the front of the dial. Like so. In which case we can release the pressure on the machine. That'll let the dies go back in. Let us get the end of the hose out. Just like that, one nicely swaged hose end. Now let me show you how we know that it's properly crimped. I showed you there about the 30 dies and the number 2 setting on the dial. Add them both together, you get the crimp diameter, 32mm. Take your vernier calipers, measure across the flats of the ferrule. And I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but that is 32mm. And that's exactly how you know it's properly crimped. As simple as that. For all of our hoses, we just need to repeat that 3 more times. One to do the other end of this one, and then both ends on the other hose. It's 8 PM Thursday evening. That's enough joinery work for one day. Time to go get my dinner. Might get back out to the office for half an hour this evening. We'll see how things go. Otherwise, that's us for Thursday. Friday morning, we've got this order ready to go. Let me quickly show you around it. Starting off at the big end, the Simex PLB 450 planer. That's the same as the one we dispatched earlier this week. This instance, it's fitted with a hitch bracket, an S45 hitch bracket for a customer's Takeuchi TB295W. That's teamed up with the GBN 70TL hydraulic breaker with the same S45 bracket on it. Both of these are going to be used on the same machine. And there's a nice little addition, the GBN 10T, that's the side plate breaker that I showed you around the other day. Everything ready to go, hoses, couplers, ready to go to work. We'll put some specs in here for the planer and then the two breakers. I should have some footage of a planer working. I'll cut that in here to show you it. And breakers are breakers, but that's a real nice, I keep calling that a little order, it's far from a little order. It's a big order. That's a good one to end the week on. All of them pretty much ready to go. Thanks to everybody involved for getting that together for us, for John and Grant and the welders for sorting out the brackets, Simex for getting us the planers over in a hurry, and GBRakes for supporting us with the breakers. That, as I look at that, is actually quite a big step for us. I know it maybe doesn't look it on here, but from where we came from a year or two ago, carrying basically 1-2 brands mainly, to an order like that, ready to go with 2 big brands on it, is a big step forward for us. Yeah, really cool to see that ready to go. Hopefully, once they get it up there, get it on. It's going on a new Takeuchi TB295W, the planer and the breaker. So hopefully, when we get it up there, they can get it on, get us some pictures or some videos of it all working. But in the meantime, it's ready to go. I'm going to go wrap all these up, get some labels on them, get them out of here. Morning, Saturday, we're in the warehouse again. No real plan for the day, to be honest, loads to get done, but I'm kind of just jumping between bits and pieces. Spent an hour or so there looking out what breakers we're taking to ScotPlant at the end of the month, so I've got them packed up, wrapped up. We should have enough stock that I don't need these until then. So they're ready to go. That means I can just lift them, load them up, and we're away with them. I do have more stands to finish building, but I'm openly admitting right now I am procrastinating on them, just because I can't find the motivation quite to get started on them again. So we do have another job that came in. Give you a little bit of background. Knox, Tiltrotators, Kinshofer Knox. I'll put an animation here or a picture here to show you just what we're talking about. A local customer, friend of ours, had bought some a few years back. One of them has been giving them a bit of bother, so they've dropped it off in here. I'm going to go and put it on a machine, see what the issue is. There's mixed reports on what the actual issue is, but my dad's got an EC 140 Volvo outside we can get a shot of for a day or two, so I'm going to go spend an hour just now, stick it on that, plumb it up, pin it on, plumb it up, and see just what we're dealing with. So let's go do that, then I'll explain in a bit more detail what we're doing. Well, that never quite worked out how I was planning. Let me show you why, if you haven't already worked out. So, the width on this Knox, hopefully you can see in the tape there, 255 millimeters. The width on the arm of the Volvo, it's hard to hold the tape and the camera at the same time, 275 millimeters. Ergo, that does not fit in there. Should I have measured this first? Probably, but I assumed it fitted all 14 tonners. Yeah, you know what I assumed did, but yeah, it doesn't fit. So with two options that I can see at the moment, I think, let me show you. So we could either, these bosses are bolt in, as you can see there. We could remove all four of these, take them to the machine shop, take 10mm off of either one. That would give us a 20mm clearance here, allow us to get that arm on this Knox. That would be the professional way to do it and the quote-unquote proper way to do it if we were putting this Knox on this digger permanently. However, let me try and get out the wind noise here. However, this is not mine, it's a customer's. This is not the customer's machine, and it's going to mean when he goes to put it back on his machine, there's going to be 20mm of clearance that wasn't there previously, and they're going to either have to shim it up, or we're going to have to get four of those bosses made, which will have an unnecessary expense to go with it. The other option, and this is purely for testing purposes, is we put standard quick coupler back on the digger. We then use that to pick up the pins on this Knox. It is not the right way to do things. It will not look pretty. It'll mean we then need to plumb back up the original coupler to open it to pick up the Knox, then take the hoses off, connect them from here to the Knox to get the bottom hitch open in the Knox to pick a bucket up. It will not be pretty, but it would work, and it would let us test it. Stuff it, right, let's give it a go. We're already an hour into this and we've made zero progress, so let's spend another half an hour, see if we can get this tilting and rotating. Hopefully before the rain gets any worse. There's a slight GoPro issue in the wind there, so let me give you an update. Before I show you this, I'm going to caveat everything you're about to see here before I get roasted in the comments by the tilt rotator experts or the tilt rotator diehards. This is miles away from a perfect setup, but we're making do for the purposes of testing. No, I would not ever supply this to somebody, nor would I recommend you set up a tilt rotator like this. I'll go into the reasons for that in a second, but let me give you the update on where we're at. So, original Hill Tefra coupler is back on the machine. Yes, I know I need to tighten these bolts. So I've picked up the Knox with the coupler. I've then bypassed the Knox. This is just oil that spilled when I was changing the hoses. I've bypassed the top hitch. I've blanked him off, as you can see. I've plumbed that directly down and into the lower coupler on the Knox so I can get a bucket on it. I've then I had to make these short jumper hoses to get the rotation circuit plumbed up. I've not plumbed up the tilt. It does work, I tried it. I've left it off just to test this because the issue, or the reported issue, was with rotation. So, in theory, we should be able to open this lower coupler, pick up that bucket and rotate this and see what the issue is. Now again, for the purpose of clarity, this is a terrible incarnation of a setup and not something that we would make commercially available, but it will do more than what we need it to do in order to test or try and replicate this problem. So let me get the coupler around here. There's also other reasons that this excavator is, in theory, right for this setup, in practice wrong, which I'll show you that in a minute as well. So let's open the quick hitch. We'll open the lower coupler. I'll show you that just now. Button on in the Volvo, other button on, quick coupler unlocked. We'll put some pressure on that and that should open the lower hitch on the Knox, which it does. Excuse the beeping, you're going to have to put up with that. I'm going to have to balance you in the middle of my legs here. So I'll try and pick up this bucket. We'll close the coupler up. Oh, that's zoomed in. Right, we are plumbed up, we've got a bucket on, we don't have tilt, but we don't need tilt for the purposes of this. Rotation on this machine is on the left hand joystick. Let me try and show you what's going on. So, clear the windows, full revs. So rotation's on these buttons, you can see the bucket there. Let me show you what happens when I press one. Yep. Let's try and go the other way. You get the idea. I'll show you once more, I'll zoom in and show you what's going on. So that's me trying to rotate left with the button held in. That's me trying to go back to the right, left, right. Now, truth be told, I did try this before I filmed that for you, just to see what was going on, and it did rotate for the first maybe 30 seconds. It made 2 full rotations, I think, 1.5, something like that. And then it started doing what you're seeing now. My suspicions, and this is just as I'm pretty much seeing this at the same time as you, is that it's some sort of pressure related issue. In fact, let me try something when I'm talking to you, because when I went to grab this camera to show you the issue, obviously the machine was sat not running for a minute or two, and I came back out. It did appear to rotate better than it did at first. So let me try this. Where's the radio on this? You be quiet. Right. I don't know why this machine's beeping, but nah. What I tried there was to stop the machine, drop all the pressure out it, and then try and work it again, but we'll get the same issue. And this is what Kinshofer would call a DF10 Knox, so a direct feed, meaning that there's no electrics on it. There's a circuit for the tilt, a circuit for the rotate. So we've got the rotate circuit hooked up on the rotate circuit on this excavator. We don't have the tilt circuit hooked up for the purposes of this, although we could, I've already tried it. We've got the coupler set up, so there's a circuit for tilt, circuit for rotate, circuit for the quick hitch. No electrics, which means it can't be an electrical issue for that very fact. It has to be a hydraulic or a mechanical issue. What I'm going to do, I need to shoot, I've got a couple of personal things to do this afternoon, then I'm coming back to work, but I think I'll leave this for just now. I don't need this machine start of the week. I think what we'll do, start of the week, we'll get the flow meter on it, we'll run the flow meter. I would do it just now, but actually I don't have it here. I loaned it out to somebody and I'm waiting to get it back. I'll put a flow meter on it, we'll try it at the same time, that way we can monitor what flow and pressures going into the NOx to rule out anything excavator side, just to see that we're still feeding it. Then we can get the videos over to Kinshofer and get some feedback and see where we're going. But yeah, it came with an issue, so we can't be downhearted there's an issue. Now we had to try and show it to see what we're dealing with, although I didn't expect it to take 2 hours to get it working this morning. But what we've got going here demonstrates the issue. It came to us and somebody else had already had a look at it, and the feedback was that there was no issue with it. They couldn't replicate the issue, hence why I was expecting to have to mount this properly, plumb it up properly and go and work it, but that's not really been the case. Could have lifted this up and rotated it on its own without a bucket on it, but wherever we're at, we need to test it properly, make sure we are doing things right, doing things thoroughly. So yeah, that's the update on that. I am going to go and park this machine up, get out, dodge the rain here, put my tools away, and I'll catch up with you this afternoon. I mentioned there that this machine was not quite ideal for this setup. There is one aspect of it that's perfect and another that's not. The bit that is perfect is the fact, if I jump out here I can show you, it's got 2 hydraulic circuits. So that one there is what would be known as your sort of breaker circuit, your main auxiliary circuit, and it's got a secondary one. You can see I've plugged these short hoses into, which means you can use one for tilt, one for rotate like we're doing here, and then you can use, I've bypassed it, but there you can use your 3rd circuit for your quick kit. So in theory that's the ideal setup for this NOx. However, the downside of that is, let me jump back in, as we've already explained, it's on buttons, which means you've no real good control over the functions of the NOx. It's an on-off switch. If these were fitted with rocker switches, I'll maybe go and show you what that looks like in a minute, then this would be perfect, but the factor with buttons is less than ideal. Let me see, there's a Cat 308 over here that might be on rocker switches. They're up and down the way, but see how the Cat here is on rockers, which means you have proportional control over each of these circuits, meaning you can work the different speed, or you can work the speed of your tilt and rotate with your thumb, which you can't obviously do with buttons. Sunday morning, we're back up at the warehouse. The Scottish, or the British weather should I say, is sticking to normal as it has been for about the last 3 months. Raining and wet again. Started off nice this morning and then the rain has just come up. Just doing a bit more up here on building up some stands for ScotPlant. Just trying to get some of them finished. We're expecting some more attachments to arrive this week coming, and then I can make a couple of more stands for them, paint them up, and they'll be pretty much done. I just figured I would finish off this week's video by giving you the tour around this NOx that we were looking at yesterday, giving you the tech specs, just showing you what it is we're dealing with. I'll put the specs up on the screen here, but this is a 2020 NOx TR14 DF10 with a D-lock lower coupler. TR14, that is the model. DF10 means direct feed, that's what we were talking about yesterday with the separate circuits for each function. And D-lock is this lower coupler from Doherty's, which is another Kinshofer brand. They make this lower coupler to there, and then it's the NOx from there up. This is an option. It's available on a NOx. It's not available on a lot of other tilt rotators any longer, but it does let you pick up what we would determine standard UK spec bucket. For this purpose, for a fleet spec plant hire machine, it is ideal. It means you don't have to have dedicated buckets for each of your machines. If you were specking one from new, you're maybe an owner operator or a contractor, I would advise to go for an S-type blower coupler. I think we spoke about them in last week's video or the week before. we've been doing quite a bit of. In fact, the SimexPlaner and the breaker that we dispatched yesterday, Friday even, had S-type brackets on it, which just reduces this build height up to about here somewhere, and does let you retain a little bit more breakout force in the machine overall, because you're obviously adding quite a bit of height to add your knocks or any other tilt rotator. So yeah, that's kind of the rundown on that one. I'm not entirely sure what we're doing with it yet, so click on to next week's video and hopefully we'll have a bit of an update. But other than that, that's us for this week. Thank you again for clicking on the video, it is much appreciated. If you've made it all the way to the end of this week's video, leave me a comment down below, let me know what you thought of it, let me know what you think we could do better, or whatever other things you want to see in the future. And when you're down there, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, keep yourself up to date with any of our other videos. And I will see you next week. Thanks again.